How dinosaurs came to rule the Earth. We're all well aware of the fact that millions of years ago, our planet was inhabited by giant lizards, the majority of whom scientists have named the dinosaurs. They dominated the land, water, and skies, all the while the distant ancestors to mammals never considered challenging these true masters of the Earth. But thanks to dinosaurs going extinct, those small, wool-covered creatures had a chance to develop and thrive. Incidentally, the dinosaurs themselves replaced some taxa along the evolutionary path, occupying lived-in niches. So what helped these giant lizards get so far up the evolutionary ladder? And why did they dominate the Earth for a long time? The age of dinosaurs was preceded by the aptly named Paleozoic era, which had lasted nearly 300 million years. During this time, the Earth's climate changed more than once, seas appeared and dried up, and most importantly, thousands of diverse species of living organisms came about and then disappeared. Many animals in this epoch were on par with the dinosaurs' size, lifestyle, strength, and voraciousness. At the same time, one could still find rather bizarre and unusual forms of life among them. One of the most interesting species in modern scientists' opinion is the Cynoganthus, who lived at the end of the Paleozoic era. With its hair cover, a 3-foot-long body, sharp teeth, and remote resemblance to modern dogs, it's probable this predator was an ancestor of modern mammals. Another ancestor of modern mammals is thought to be the Asteminosuchus. On the outside, this strange creature resembled a cross between a hippopotamus and a rhinoceros, with a collar much like a triceratops. To this day, scientists debate whether Asteminosuchus was a herbivore or a carnivore. It reached about 15 feet and weighed nearly half a ton. The marine fauna of the Paleozoic era evolved from trilobites and crustaceans to the ancestors of modern fish. Their evolution, however, often took on strange and even creepy forms. One of the most interesting of such surprises was the species of fish called Helicoprion. Despite their outward resemblance to modern sharks, they are not even remotely related. These giants could reach up to 40 feet in length. The strangest thing, though, was their jaw structure, straight out of a horror movie. Their mandibles had the ability to rotate like a circular saw. Another sea giant during this era was the Dunkleosteus. This 33-foot weighed around 4 tons and was covered in thick bone armor. It is thought that its diet was made up of prehistoric sharks, the likes of which the Dunkleosteus could bite in half with its powerful jaws. According to researchers, the pressure created by these jaws is comparable to a modern crocodile's or T-Rex. About 250 million years ago, the Permian extinction began, and it's considered the most massive extinction in the history of the planet. The oxygen content in the air and water sharply decreased. The air temperature rose sharply at the end of the beginning of the event, and then a severe cooling followed thereafter. All of these cataclysms led to a painful, slow extinction of nearly all life on the planet over a period of 5 to 15 million years. The ancestors of mammals degenerated to the size of modern rodents and tunneled into burrows. A group of several hundred species of lizards who would one day become dinosaurs were the most successful at adapting to the new climate. The Mesozoic era, which succeeded the Permian extinction, was the heyday of dinosaurs. During the 200 million years it lasted, hundreds of species of the most diverse creatures replaced one another all over the globe. Like all animals that existed before and after the dinosaurs, they were divided into carnivores and herbivores, large and small, and between nocturnal and daytime predators. Each species adapted to new conditions in their surroundings the best they could, which is why evolution provided us with a gigantic array of these reptiles. Undoubtedly, the most popular and recognizable of these dinosaurs was the T-Rex. Due to its large size and terrifying teeth, it was able to gain fame as the most formidable predator of all time. And even though there's an ongoing debate among scientists as to whether it was an ambush hunter or could actually run after its prey, considering its size like in Hollywood movies. But maybe it was a scavenger after all. When we say dinosaur, most of us imagine the T-Rex. One of the most intelligent species of dinosaurs was the Troodon. These small nocturnal predators had the largest brains relative to their body size. Until recently, there was even a theory that the evolution of the Troodon led to the emergence of humans. However, this hypothesis was found to be false. Among the herbivore species, the most well-known members of the family were the sauropods. These long-necked giants reached a mass of 100 tons and rarely feared even the largest of predators. Monsters such as the Mosasaurus or giant shark, the Megalodon, could have easily handled the Diplodocus or Argentinosaurus. But because of their different habitats, these varied species rarely came across one another's paths. However, in the seas of the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, these super predators had no competitors. Sea lizards. Mosasaurs were 33 to 56 feet long and could reach speeds of nearly 12 miles per hour. Combined with their huge jaws equipped with sharp teeth, few people would be able to put up a fight against these monsters. It is true that there are findings of giant turtle shells with traces of Mosasaur's unsuccessful bites. The extinction of the dinosaurs is believed to have begun when a giant asteroid collided with the Earth. Its contact led to a drastic change in climate, as well as a large number of eruptions and earthquakes. In turn, these events led to a large amount of dust and volcanic ash, which rose into the air and prevented sunlight from reaching the Earth's surface. Despite the fact that dinosaurs are considered to be warm-blooded by modern science, only a few species managed to cope with subsequent cold snap and food scarcity. Perhaps if the falling meteorite had split into several smaller chunks or had merely dropped into the rough ocean, the scale of ecological destruction wouldn't have been so critical for dinosaurs, and their distant descendants could still be living on Earth. On the other hand, however, the dinosaurs' extinction enabled the development of mammals and, as a consequence, the emergence of humanity. Thus, if dinosaurs had survived, it's unlikely we would have been able to observe them living, as we ourselves would most likely have never existed. One more thing. According to some theories, life was brought to Earth from outer space. There's also the theory that small fragments of our planet, some which contain life, could have been carried away to other galaxies following the asteroid's impact. Therefore, it's possible that somewhere in space, there's an intelligent race of lizards that evolved from our dinosaurs. On our planet, though, only crocodiles, sharks, turtles, a handful of insects, and a few other living species who witnessed the dinosaurs have survived. And the only officially recognized descendants of said dinosaurs are modern birds. So, if you want to see living dinosaurs, you can go to a chicken farm or feed pigeons in the park. After all, it's quite possible that even without asteroids, dinosaurs would have just evolved into something similar in due time. The most dangerous predators of the Ice Age. If you believe that during the Ice Age, the entirety of the Earth's surface was covered in a layer of ice multiple meters thick, and that the only remaining living creatures were microorganisms thriving in the ocean around geothermal vents and the like, then you are definitely mistaken. Of course, these sorts of global catastrophes have taken place in Earth's history. The Age of Dinosaurs, for example, concluded this way. More predominantly, however, an ice age is understood as being a prolonged cooling of the global climate. Such periods are characterized by a regularly alternating pattern of abrupt cooling periods and so-called interglacial thaws. By the way, we are currently living through one of these warming trends. To learn more about various previous ice ages and the development of life on Earth, you can subscribe to our channel. Subscribers will be the first to find out about new videos and have the opportunity to express their opinions via like and comments. Following the change in temperature and movement in the polar ice, the animal habitat went through changes of their own. Life was barely hanging on around the equator, which then quickly spread towards polar latitudes. This contributed to an emergence of new species. During this current ice age, all kinds of animals appeared on the planet. Many of them, for numerous reasons, have gone extinct. Unfortunately, we're unlikely to see mammoths and woolly rhinoceroses once more grazing in the steppes of Siberia. And in place of grassy plains in these parts, we now find dense forests and snowy deserts. The mammoth fauna spawned not only a collection of peculiar herbivores, but also a huge number of predators which hunted them. Among the animals occupying the upper echelon of the food chain, Many stood out from the rest for their unusual appearance and size. They are the main heroes of our video. Saber-toothed cats. The saber-toothed tiger is often called the representative of the saber-toothed cats, or maharids. But in terms of kinship, these Ice Age predators are still closer to modern cats than the large felines of our time. The main features that distinguish saber-toothed ancestors from their present-day descendants include a short tail and prominent fangs. In some species, these fangs could reach up to 17 centimeters, 7 inches, in length. These evolutionary adaptations aided the saber-toothed tigers in preying on various thick-skinned ungulates, such as deer, bison, and camels. Modern art, as depicted in Hollywood movies and cartoons, have created an iconic image in our collective mind of the saber-toothed tiger hunting mammoths. Scientists, however, have found this behavior to be an exception to the rule. After all, it is rather rare for modern large cats to go after adult elephants. Thus, it is believed that, most likely, Ice Age predators could attack a baby mammoth. The most infamous members of the saber-toothed family appear to be the Smilodon and the Homotherium. Smilodons inhabited territories spanning both Americas. They grew up to 1.2 meters, 4 feet, at their withers and weighed in about 300 kilograms, or 660 pounds. Homotherians were slightly smaller and lived throughout Africa and Eurasia, as well as parts of North America. The last saber-toothed cats went extinct approximately 8 to 10,000 years ago. This means the last of their species competed for food amongst the lions, tigers, and jaguars we recognize today. Phororhacos. These large birds of prey inhabited nearly every continent, often in niches vacated by newly extinct dinosaurs. We know them by their common name Phororhacos, but in fact, they were a facet of an entire family of winged hunters, which included various species. What they all possessed in common was an inability to fly, a large jaw size, powerful legs, and gigantic beaks. For several tens of millions of years, these terrifying birds were a menace for all other animals inhabiting the jungles of South America. Amphicean. Amphicean, or dog bear, inhabited most of today's European nations. These strange and dangerous creatures shared features with various modern species. They possessed a long tail similar to modern cats, broad bear-like paws including claws that did not retract inward, and a canine skull equipped with powerful jaws. Amphiceans were most likely capable of relatively fast speeds, but scientists are inclined to believe that they favored ambushing prey. Judging by the largest remains discovered, the biggest canine bears weighed over 200 kilograms, or 440 pounds. Gigantic bears. In addition to canine bears, the ancestors of modern bears, which are more similar to the beasts we're accustomed to, also lived in Europe and North America. The distant ancestors of brown bears, Kodiaks, and grizzlies, however, were much larger than their descendants. For example, the Arctodus, or short-faced bear, could grow as large as a ton. Its body and muscle were much shorter than that of modern bears, and its paws were longer. This led scientists to speculate that despite such an enormous mass, these giants could run fast enough to catch prey. There's also speculation as to whether Arctodus might have stolen prey away from smaller cats, Smilodons, and American lions. Cave bears received their namesake because their remains were found in mass in caves all across the European continent. In the Bear Cave, located in Romania, 140 skeletons of these large predators were discovered. Researchers determined these bears could grow as tall as 3.5 meters, or 11.5 feet. Entelodon. These massive boars, which lived in both Eurasia and North America, inflicted terror on all other living things. Like their pig descendants, these infernal boars were not squeamish concerning food, and the combination of great weight, high speed, and a small brain made them dangerous even to the saber-toothed cats. Entelodons could hunt smaller animals or steal prey from other predators. Hyaenodon. Referring to a family of predators that appeared about 50 million years ago. Among them, there appeared animals as large as the modern fowl, but also real monsters weighing in at around 300 kilograms or 660 pounds and rising as high as 1.5 meters or 5 feet tall. The primary feature of the hyaenodons was their huge head. Together with its jaws, it was about 1/3 the length of the animal's body. Simultaneously, these jaws were extremely powerful and filled with long, sharp teeth. Hyenodons could tear through the hardest bones. This meant they could hunt both herbivores and feed on carrion alike. With an impressive arsenal of traits, and more than likely a gregarious hunting method, hyenodons could seriously compete with big cats and giant bears. But for 15 million years, these predators have been completely extinct. Scientists posit that by evolving such large jaws, hyenodons were unable to compensate to provide a large enough brain. Additionally, most ungulates of their time began shifting escape tactics and favoring speed. The massive, yet unintelligent hyenodons did not evolve their traits and hunting tactics in time to survive. Direwolf. It turns out that the direwolves which populate the expanse of George Martin's Game of Thrones universe are not merely a figment of the writer's imagination. The largest wolves ever to exist found their home in North America. They were comparable in height to modern gray wolves, but weighed more and were built larger. Like all other members of this family, direwolves lived and hunted in packs. Therefore, in a struggle for prey and territory, they could throw their weight against any of the contemporaneous predators. The most terrifying predator of all this era, however, was a creature boasting small size and lacking large teeth and jaws. This dangerous beast not only preyed upon large herbivores, such as the mammoth, but was also willing to engage in combat with all the aforementioned creatures. According to most scientists, it was this animal's insatiable appetite that caused the extinction of many species of that era. This animal was man, and their main weapons were a developed brain and the tools this brain helped them create. Thanks to this, man has survived many more formidable predators and successfully lives on to the present day, occupying the highest order of the food chain. But the next round of climate change is not far off. Scientists predict another global cooling period over the next 100 years. Only time will tell whether our descendants will successfully reign over the world when the ice caps recede from the equator to the poles once again. The strangest and most unusual dinosaurs. Throughout our planet's existence, life has often taken on bizarre forms. Even during the age of dinosaurs, there appeared body shapes so unusual that it's difficult to believe they ever existed. Fossils provide us with direct evidence, with their traits easily explained by understanding these ancient creatures' way of life and the environment they survived in. Let's go! Tanistropheus, a lizard boasting a ridiculously large neck, who didn't seem to possess the means to exist. It was extremely uncomfortable to move around on land, although most scientists lean towards the creature maintaining a serpentine mode of movement. With its tenacious claws connected to short, strong paws, it dug itself in to become an immovable object, like a rock or log. Its immense neck enabled it to dash at passing fish. This mode of feeding is indirectly indicated by its needle-sharp teeth. By subscribing to our channel right now, you can greatly increase your piggy bank of knowledge. A like, comment, and a bell will allow you to share your own opinion with as many people as possible who also share a love for dinosaurs and everything that has to do with them. Dimetrodon. It's quite possible that this creature is one of the first legitimate ancestors of all subsequent dinosaurs on the planet and is distinguished with a large crest on its back. In a way, it's reminiscent of modern iguanas, but slightly more massive than modern reptiles. Scientists all agree on the matter of its absurdly large comb. In the particularly cold climate of the era, every bit of heat mattered. Therefore, its body evolved in a way in which blood vessels permeated the entire construction of the comb and acted as a giant array for solar calories. Longisquama. This strange creature with its small body and huge sparse feathers on its back is certainly perplexing. Scientists disagree on the purpose of the sparse sail located on its back. And if everything is evident with the Dimetrodon, in this case it's extremely difficult to provide a rational explanation. The only plausible version of this is that it was used in attracting females during mating games, along with the assumption that these feathers would grow for a definitive length of time. Parasaurolophus. This lizard once led a semi-aquatic lifestyle, with a peculiar interest being shown towards its very tall crest. Inside its structure, there are pathways connected to the nasal cavity. Scientists believe that it could easily have used this organ for breathing underwater when moving along the bed of a body of water. Another suggestion involves its ability to make loud, trumpeting noises during sharp exhalations. This also allowed it to effectively hide from predators in the water. Therizinosaurus, a creature with wildly disproportionate claws and an almost upright gait that looks rather ridiculous. The purpose of such an imposing Freddy Krueger-like set of natural traits is still debated today. The skeleton appears so absurd that for a long time, it was suspected to be a turtle or an assemblage of fossils of various different species. Feathers have also recently been added to its reconstruction. Write in the comments why you believe it required such tools. Though, it's already been in the Guinness Book twice, once for strangest species and another time for longest known fossil of a claw. Amargasaurus, only discovered in 1991, is another genuinely surprising specimen for those who look at its reconstruction. All attempts to reconstruct its appearance have come out differently. One thing is clear, the back of its head and neck were covered with large spikes. There's no hint of a sail like that of the Dimetrodon. Thus, scientists have traditionally written these traits off as mating tools or basic protection from predators. Neither has it been proven that it was possible to control this organ, though scientists have found the presence of horny covers. Dilophosaurus, an unusual predator which roamed the great expanses of North America, sported a pair of crests on its muzzle. Paleontologists believe they might have been used for its body's thermoregulation. It's also possible they were used as a kind of identification mark or signal of apparent sexual dimorphism. Their hollow structure didn't allow any load on the neck. There's speculation among scientists that these ridges were brightly colored, though proving this is unrealistic. Dinosaur. There's still debate as to the reconstruction of this dinosaur, though what is clear is that it had a ridiculously large hump and a tiny head, as well as front disproportionate paws equipped with gigantic claws. The protrusion on its back was not fleshy, and therefore its purpose is still unclear. There's debate concerning whether it served as a water reservoir or regulated blood circulation. In addition to all these features, it also had small eyes and a toothless beak. Acrothalus. It appeared very much like a man who is balded atop his head with age. The disproportionately large head looks as though it was reattached from another, larger dinosaur. In all likelihood, it used the bony outgrowth on the top of its head to ram predators, much like modern bulls, or perhaps to sort out territorial disputes with others of its species over females and land. One had to have a powerful neck to control such a heavy mace like that. Styracosaurus. Among all the bird-like ceratopsids, it maintains the strangest appearance. Whereas the more famous Triceratops only had small, spiky growths along their collars, here we can see some very real swords. It had no horns on its forehead, save for a single defensive object sticking straight out of the nasal portion of its skull. Not every predator could open its mouth against such an unusual defense mechanism, and it was difficult to break free of those spikes. Incisivosaurus. This is one of the ancestors of modern birds. A body entirely covered in plumage has been confirmed by scientists, though this is not the creature's main feature. Its teeth seem to have been of basic importance to it during its transition into having a true beak, but something along that evolutionary process clearly went awry. It had a pair of particularly protruding teeth towards the front of the upper jaw. These were very similar to rabbit incisors. Judging by their number and the absence of a reciprocal set on the lower jaw, the two top teeth seemingly had no purpose. Atopododentatus. This was a dinosaur that once inhabited the prehistoric oceans. However, its strange mouth apparatus evokes a certain amazement, bewilderment, and genuine laughter. It would be rather difficult to live with such a clothespin on one's lips in the modern world, though there is actually a reasonable explanation for its appearance. It looks like it was used to pinch algae out of the surf lane and scrape them straight off the overgrown rocks. It could also be used to pluck away ingrown mollusks. The Atopododentatus bears a slight resemblance to the modern platypus, but they are not genetically related. Epidexoteryx. This small dinosaur once hid in the tree grounds of what is now southern China. It boasted a huge feathery tail a funny-looking muzzle with a short toothy beak, and a very unusual forelimb hand. The pinky finger is the longest, and then the fingers decrease in size across the hand. Climbing trees must have been very convenient. An analogy with modern winged mammals and pterosaurs can clearly be observed here. Pegomastacacei were small herbivorous dinosaurs with a very strange appearance. A small but extremely hard beak allowed easy access to tough bulbs and tree shoots. However, a pair of fangs also protruded from its lower jaw. It's highly possible that the species lived as an omnivore, which was why it required such an unusual jowl attribute. Its unusualness doesn't end there, as its entire back was covered with rigid spikes, very similar to those of modern porcupines. The length of its front limbs suggests that perhaps it could walk on its hind legs for short stints or utilize 4 points of support. Pterodostro. Here we are able to observe the most unusual member of the flying dinosaurs. These animals' long jaws were unlikely to surprise anyone, though this case is different. The pterodostro's mouth was curved upwards like a spoonful of stubby teeth. Their mouth, as the modern world could appreciate, would only have been for a particular diet. That would mean the smallest of crustaceans, plankton, or floating insects. A similar trait is utilized nowadays by cetacean mammals. It's almost impossible to list all the unusual dinosaurs that existed in a singular video. This is just one of the few thematic reviews of ancient reptiles featured on our channel. Sign up if you're interested in the prehistoric world. Click like and hit the bell so as to not miss new videos. Comment and share the link with your friends on social media. See you next time, friends! The Strangest and Most Unusual Dinosaurs, Part 2. The age of dinosaurs lasted for over 200 million years. Hundreds, if not thousands, of species of the gigantic reptiles appeared and disappeared forever from the Earth during this time. Each of them came with their own distinct characteristics. As nothing happens for naught in nature, surely these traits had some kind of practical application. However, the appearance of a few dinosaurs would have surely brought a smile to our faces. Some might even surprise us. In our earlier video, we discussed some dinosaurs with an unusual appearance, but there were so many to choose from that one video alone couldn't do all the strange and funny lizards of that time justice. By subscribing to our channel, you can express your opinion about the videos using likes and be the first to learn about interesting facts concerning dinosaurs and the history of the planet. Also, subscribers can discuss the information covered in the comments section. Of course, dinosaurs look strange when compared to the majority of modern animals. But among the inhabitants of Age of Dinosaurs themselves, there are also examples that stand out sharply from the backdrop of their fellow beings. Thus, feast your attention on a selection of the most unusual and most peculiar dinosaurs. Wenontosaurus. A tiny dinosaur which lived in present-day China during the late Cretaceous period, belonging to the Pachycephalosaurus family. What distinguishes these dinosaurs from others is their unusually shaped head. The bony outgrowth typically resembled a cap. Scientists have not yet affirmed the exact function of this headdress. With most members of this family, the head is hidden under a rounded cap. The Wenontosaurus, however, didn't want to follow this fashion trend. It instead sported a bifurcated hat, as well as being extremely small in size. Even as an adult, this dinosaur would barely reach a human's knee in height. Yutyrannus. May this beast serve as definitive proof of dinosaurs' kinship with birds. Yutyrannus' entire body was covered in small feathers. Given that this dinosaur was a pteropod and walked upright, it might give an impression much like a chicken. If it wasn't for one big but, this feather-covered lizard weighed about 2 tons and was a dangerous predator. This combination of a killing machine and a benign appearance in the eyes of humankind makes Yutyrannus a fairly unusual member of the dinosaur era. Suchosaurus or Suzosaurus. However, the strangest member of the pteropods happens to be this very animal. The Suchosaurus, like the Yutyrannus, was a relative of the T-Rex. Truthfully, when comparing the appearance of the Suchosaurus with the Tyrannosaurus, few will notice any common features. This member of the Cretaceous period looks a bit like a giant rat with a neck and a head of a vulture. An appearance like this might seem amusing, but behaviorally, it was just like any other member of its family, and towering at 7 meters or 23 feet, with enormous claws on its front paws, could easily terrify small animals. It's doubtful those same animals would be joking about this beast's appearance. Epidendrosaurus. Only one skeleton of this small dinosaur has ever been found. It was uncovered in China almost 20 years ago. Scientists hypothesized that the Epidendrosaurus was one of the first species to live in trees. It's possible that this is the lizard responsible for all the birds we know today. The uncovered specimen is about 5 centimeters or 2 inches in size. And since this is the only find of its kind, scientists can't say for sure whether it's an adult or merely a cub. The Epidendrosaurus's primary distinguishing feature is the structure of its fingers and claws with a particularly elongated third finger. They are a far cry from bird wings and more similar to claws. The dinosaur most likely acquired this tool through evolution. Its long, slender fingers allowed it to pick up insects out of fissures in the bark. Tyrannosaurus. This dinosaur appears as though there was an attempt to assemble as many incongruous features as possible in terms of appearance. At 7 meters, or 23 feet in height, and sporting a powerful body, it had a disproportionately small, elongated head. This head finished off with a genuine beak, and there is webbing between its jaws. The Tyrannosaurus also has an entire back that resembles a high, bright ridge. Their hind legs are much more impressive and longer than the front legs. Apparently, as they walked upright, they didn't necessarily rely on the front feet, but the very tips of the paws. This beauty lived in the continent of Africa at the beginning of the Cretaceous period. Archosaurus. Apparently, the early Cretaceous period is chock full of evolutionary experiments with the appearance of dinosaurs. Archosaurs lived during this period. Their bones and the remains of many other species have been unearthed in China. It might appear as though a complete copy of the Stegosaurus, but for some reason, this dinosaur decided to give up its coveted dorsal plates. When you gaze at the Archosaurus, you get the impression that the plates seem to have been carved off. But if scientists are suggesting the Stegosaurus plates were used for thermoregulation, then perhaps the Archosaurus's climate made it possible to evolve without them? Or perhaps they managed to find a way to cool themselves with other methods. Psittacosaurus. The name of this dinosaur translates to parrot lizard, and the Psittacosaurus lives up to this name. It's only about twice the size of current-day parrots. It received its name from the beak and spines atop its head. It also has a bunch of bright feathers on its back towards the base of its tail. A decade ago, scientists believed that these feathers were much longer, including the dinosaur's front paws. This peculiar beast lived, naturally, during the Cretaceous period on the Asian continent. There's even a separate Siberian subspecies of Psittacosauruses. Contosaurus. Once again, modern China's territory pops up in our review. It can be guessed, however, by the name of the dinosaur. Contosaurus belongs to the Hadrosaurs family, and, like all hadrosaurs, it has a bone outgrowth on its head. Until recently, it was thought that this growth looked just like a unicorn horn. But modern science is still inclined to believe that their long, thin bone was part of a large ridge. Microraptor. It has long been proven that many dinosaurs were covered with feathers and had front limbs that resembled modern wings. For example, velociraptors looked very different from the beast Spielberg depicted in Jurassic Park. If real velociraptors had been chasing the characters on screen, they wouldn't look as dangerous. In general, the presence of rudimentary wings in raptors doesn't surprise anyone. But there was some original copy among them. Some Microraptor had grown feathers not only on its front legs, but on its hind legs as well. This meant it wasn't yet able to fly completely, but it was able to glide from tree to tree. It was not known whether these additional wings aided in this at all. Cryolophosaurus. Another relative of the Tyrannosaurus gets a review in our video. The Cryolophosaurus was almost equal in both size and teeth length to its famous descendants of the Cretaceous period. Most likely, it was one of the members from the top of the food chain of the early Jurassic. But it would hardly make the grade in terms of the most dangerous predator in some famous movie. The reason would be the bright crest on its face. Scientists are still arguing about the purpose of this accessory. But one thing is certain, whatever function it serves, The comb makes this fearsome predator look ridiculous. Notronic. Probably one of the most unusual members of the theropod family. The Notronicus, unlike most of its relatives, was a herbivore and not a predator. This and walking on two legs didn't add to its speed. It was hindered by the shape of its pelvis. It is similar in body shape to modern sloths. Therefore, scientists assumed that the Nitronicus's way of life coincided with the lifestyles of modern animals. Imagine a 5-meter or 16.5-inch long giant covered with fluffy feathers moving leisurely through the late Cretaceous forests as it slowly ate leaves atop treetops. Simultaneously, the Nitronicus, like the sloth, possessed long, sharp claws on its front paws. This helped them not only defend themselves from predators, but also allow them to bend the tops of trees. Throughout the history of the Earth, millions of species of living things existed on it. Some animals have evolved actively, having existed for tens or even hundreds of millions of years. Others died out before they could be born. In our new video, we have prepared the top 5 deadliest animals in the history of the Earth. But before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel. If you enjoyed the video, then like it. And if you have something to say about the video, then write your independent comment. And be sure to press the bell so as not to miss new and interesting episodes from the Dinosaur Age channel. And we begin. The 5th in our top 5 is taken by Smilodon. Smilodon was a prehistoric cat, often called the saber-toothed tiger, but really, they had no relation to the tigers that exist in our time. The correct term for Smilodon and its closest relatives is a saber-toothed cat. Smilodon was the largest of the saber-toothed cats and one of the largest predators among mammals ever wandering the Earth. They lived throughout the Americas, preferring a habitat with an ideal mix of forests and fields, allowing them to hunt large, slow-moving herbivores. It is likely that it hunted in groups, possibly living in prides like African lions. According to paleontologists, there is irrefutable evidence that elderly or injured members of this family were supported by other members of the group, despite their inability to hunt. During hunting, Smilodon could chase its prey for a short period of time, as their tails severely disturbed their balance. Smilodon most likely had to use trees or bushes to ambush to track down prey and suddenly attack. Surprisingly, their imposing fangs were very fragile and broke easily, so this cat could not hold its prey with its teeth as a lion does. Instead, using their huge size and powerful forelimbs, they knocked the enemy off the paws with a powerful lunge. And, as soon as the prey was pressed to the ground by the first attacking predator, another cat clamped the trachea with its teeth, thereby using its powerful jaw muscles to choke its victim. Thanks to the abundance of fossils throughout America, it can be concluded that Smilodon was a very successful predator. Until now, his disappearance remains a mystery. There is speculation that its extinction was due to the extinction of large herbivores shortly after humans colonized America about 13,000 years ago. To describe the 4th deadliest predator of all time, we need to go far, far into the past of Earth, in the Cambrian era, about 500 million years ago. Our world at that time was completely unrecognizable. The whole Earth was covered with rocks, thereby very similar to Mars. But in those days, the oceans were already teeming with life. For millions of years, evolution was progressing very slowly. Most of the animals that existed up to this moment were primitive creatures that simply went with the current. It was at this time that life on Earth began to develop in a completely new direction. The first predators appeared, and the largest and deadliest was a strange invertebrate creature, Anomalocaris. At the time, it was the largest animal on the planet. Its length was about 6 feet. It had a flexible, segmented body, large eyes, and a round mouth that had razor-sharp blades. Anomalocaris was completely unlike any animal that exists today, and its unique features, unfortunately, disappeared with it. It is possible that Anomalocaris lived in small stocks, traveling through tropical coastal waters in search of prey. Anomalocaris was capable of eating anything, but most of all, it preferred the famous trilobites, which at that time were a huge number of species. However, trilobites were not easy prey, since their hard shells provided them with serious protection. To cope with this, Anomalocaris used its curved forelimbs to grab and hold its prey at the moment of hunting. Anomalocaris fossils were found in Canada, China, and Australia. Initially, scientists were confused about what the creature looked like, and it was originally believed that the fossils found belonged to two different animal species, and it was not until the 1980s that scientists realized that fossils were actually part of one large animal. In third place is Tyrannosaurus rex, the most popular and famous of all dinosaurs. It was a massive two-legged creature with a powerful tail, a huge head, and tiny front legs. Tyrannosaurus lived in the dry open plains of North America during the Cretaceous period, where it constantly wandered in searching of prey. His main diet was other large dinosaurs. It is believed that T-Rex had an exceptional sense of smell, which it may have used both for hunting and for searching for falls, which he possibly ate. The main weapon of the Tyrannosaurus was its huge mouth, with serrated teeth and its strongest bite. Its jaws were more than 3 feet long. The curved and serrated teeth of the Tyrannosaurus were often the size of a human palm and were used to attack the victim at the time of the hunt. Due to the structure of the jaw, T-Rex was unable to chew food, so he tore off pieces of the victim's flesh by swallowing it all up. According to some reports, he could swallow up to 770 pounds of meat in one meal. Such feeding meant that the Tyrannosaurus was constantly in danger of dying from suffocation. And in support of this theory, a T-Rex fossil was found, with 2 bones stuck in the throat. Another enigmatic physiological feature of the Tyrannosaurus was its 2 tiny short front legs with 2 fingers. What were they used for? After all, they were too short to reach its mouth and too weak to provide any means of protection or hunting. There is a theory that they could be used as a part of a mating ritual. For a long time, Tyrannosaurus remains the most famous dinosaur, appearing as the protagonist in countless books, films, and TV programs. Its familiar and easily recognizable form makes it one of the symbols of paleontology, and many scientists consider it the most important fossil of all time. Another surprising fact of the dinosaur era was that the powerful predator getting the second line of our top was not a dinosaur. Leopleurodon. It was a marine reptile and huge in size, reaching 82 feet in length. Despite its size, it could glide silently through the warm tropical shallow seas of the late Jurassic period. In the water, it moved around, swinging giant flippers alternately. This form of swimming was quite unique to Leopleurodon and its closest relatives, known as plesiosaurs. Leopleurodon's skull was huge, making up nearly half its total length. It was connected to the body through a comparatively short neck. The long jaws contained rows of needle-sharp teeth capable of killing any other marine animal of that time. Both the skull and jaw bones were strengthened in a way that allowed them to withstand the powerful bite force of its jaws. Leopleurodon, the largest known predator, its jaws were 3 times larger than those of a Tyrannosaurus. It is therefore not surprising that he preyed predominantly on other giant marine reptiles and fish. He was particularly fond of saltwater crocodiles, sharks, ichthyosaurs, and other pelycosaurs. With a very heightened sense of smell, Leopleurodon could smell its prey at a considerable distance and, like sharks, followed the smell up to its origin. It also had very good vision, and as soon as it noticed suitable prey, it was quickly gaining speed using its huge flippers. So, here it is, the most deadly predator of all time, getting the top position. This is a very familiar animal. If you want to see it, all you have to do is just look in the mirror. We often call ourselves humans, but scientifically we're known as Homo sapiens, or man of reason. Our ancestors first evolved in East Africa about 190,000 years ago, and that's where we lived for a long time. For most of our history, there have been very few prerequisites that we could one day dominate the planet. But about 90,000 years ago, things began to change. We left Africa And in just 50,000 years, large human settlements formed in Asia, Europe, and the Far East, including Australia. The first people of Europe are often called Cro-Magnons, by the name of a place in France where they were first found. The Cro-Magnons shared the European continent with other very famous human species, Neanderthals. Although these more ancient people were well adapted to their environment, in turn, the ability of the Cro-Magnons to think abstractly and the ability to solve complex problems helped them adapt relatively quickly to the Ice Age environment. They made flint knives and spear tips, ropes and tight-fitting woven clothing. Using their outstanding tool-making skills, the Cro-Magnons were able to hunt more efficiently and produce more food. They learned to cultivate it more efficiently and even learned to store it for further use. Cro-Magnons also supplemented their meat diet with edible plants, fruits, and vegetables, meaning they probably didn't rely as much on hunting as Neanderthals. For most of their history, Homo sapiens have shared the world with other people. But 28,000 years ago, Neanderthals and some other human ancestors died out. The ingenuity of Homo sapiens allowed them to survive the Ice Age, colonize much of the globe, and discover new ways of living together through the power of invention. The invention of agriculture in the Middle East 11,000 years ago changed our species and set us on a path to the world we live in today, a world of constant technological change. The extraordinary ingenuity of Homo sapiens allowed us to effectively transcend the natural order. We started producing food ourselves by farming, which allowed the population to grow exponentially. This process has accelerated over a millennia, and now the human presence on the planet is more than 7.5 billion people. Now man has a huge impact on the limited resources of the Earth and many of its ecosystems. As a result, we can be safely called the deadliest predator ever. Moreover, our ingenuity allows us to produce weapons to destroy anyone from flies to whales. We are even trying to eliminate certain harmful bacteria and viruses using various forms of medicine. But the worst thing is that due to military conflicts and crime, we kill representatives of our own species. At least 500,000 people die at our hands every year. But that's a completely different story.
In our previous issues, we have repeatedly raised the issue of the presence of plumage in dinosaurs. This fact has been known to scientists for a long time, but they only received direct evidence in 1998. Fossilized remains of feathered dinosaurs have been found in China. Today, we'll tell you more about the discovery and introduce you to some feathered dinosaurs. You can also find out when and for what purpose dinosaurs acquired feathers. By subscribing to the Age of Dinosaurs channel, you can be the first to know about the new releases of videos and share your opinions with other viewers in the comments. We also encourage all science lovers to actively support the creators of this channel with likes. In the classic view, all dinosaurs look like huge reptiles. Even in good documentaries made in the 90s of the last century, they have scaly skin like a snake or a crocodile. And the creators of feature films still cannot move away from the images shown in cult classics like Jurassic Park. It is quite difficult to scare the viewer with raptors and other predators, decorated like tropical birds. Meanwhile, scientists have long noticed the similarity between dinosaurs and the remains of the skeletons of modern birds. The first assumptions about the possible presence of feathers appeared quite a long time ago. In 1969, paleontologist John Ostrom described a dinosaur called Deinonychus. These manipulators were known before this. They were first discovered by famous explorer Barnum Brown in the late 1920s. A highly fragmented dinosaur skeleton was discovered in 1927 and partially described by Brown in 1931. At that time, it had a different working title. The researcher did not finish his work and the incomplete skull, fragments of the spine, and limbs went into a storage at the American Museum of Natural History for a long time. Deinonychus lived in what is now the United States and possibly Brazil. They grew up to 3.3 meters in length and up to 120 centimeters in height. These small theropods weighed about 70 kilograms. About 30 years later, Brown showed the exhibit to student John Ostrom. And in 1964, Ostrom, as part of an expedition, discovered several more fragments belonging to the same species. When describing the dinosaur, which received the name Deinonychus, the young scientist noted some features of its structure. The skeleton of this small dinosaur had a special lunate bone. It is characteristic of the forelimbs of birds and is needed for folding the wings. Due to the strong resemblance of the Deinonychus to birds, the researcher assumed that it was warm-blooded and could have been covered in feathers. These statements caused a serious resonance in the scientific community. In one of the following works, Ostrom even suggested that he might have been mistaken. But subsequent discoveries of the remains of this dinosaur only confirmed its similarity to modern birds. This forced many scientists to reconsider their views, but material evidence of the presence of feathers in the form of imprints of the skin of the Deinonychus has not yet been found. The students and followers of these scientists increasingly began to use illustrations showing feathered dinosaurs in their works. In 1974, paleontologist Robert Baker published an article entitled "The Renaissance of Dinosaurs." It featured the first images of dinosaurs with feathers. The scientist also directly stated that dinosaurs were an advanced group of warm-blooded creatures. In 1988, Gregory Paul's book, Predatory Dinosaurs of the World, was published. In it, Baker's student said that he knew for sure that dinosaurs such as Deinonychus and Velociraptor were definitely covered with feathers. He had no doubt that over time, much evidence would be found for the presence of feathers in dinosaurs. But even without the presence of skin prints, feathered dinosaurs appeared in this and other publications of the author. By the early 90s, our researchers had little doubt that at least small dinosaurs were covered with primitive feathers. For example, the Soviet paleontologist Mikhail Ivaknenko, in his book The Living Past of the Earth, published in 1987, depicted an avamima with a thick feather covering. Avamim is a small carnivorous theropod living in Asia between 84 to 66 million years ago. It did not exceed 1.5 meters in length, and its name translates as bird-like. It was first discovered in the Gobi Desert in 1981 by Soviet paleontologist Sergei Kurzanov. The skeleton found was a missing tail. Therefore, the scientists believed that the dinosaur was tailless. Later discoveries dispelled this misconception. It was a fast and agile predator. Most scientists believed that it could have been an omnivore. They were prompted to this idea by the structure of the animal's mouth. It looked more like a beak, but the jaws had teeth characteristic of omnivores. Kurzanov himself suggested that avamim could have fed on insects. This is evidenced by the structure of its neck and the shape of its vertebrae. And perhaps these theropods could have united in fairly large flocks. Finally, in 1996, the hopes of paleontologists around the world came true. A Chinese farmer who was keen on finding fossils discovered two interesting fragments. They bear the imprint of unusual dinosaurs. One sample was purchased by the Nanjing Institute of Geology and Paleontology. The other went to the National Geographic Museum in Beijing. The fossils are approximately 122 to 124 million years old. The dinosaur found was named Sinosauropteryx, which means Chinese feathered lizard. Canadian paleontologist Phil Curry photographed one of the exhibits and showed it to scientists from the United States. One of the people who saw these photographs first was John Ostrom. More than 30 years later, his theory has found material confirmation. But even now, the scientific community could not immediately accept this revolutionary discovery. In the first article on Sinosauropteryx, it is called a bird. Later, it was nevertheless classified as a non-avian dinosaur from the family Compsognathus. But some scientists believed that it was not feathers that were imprinted on the rock. Alan Fiducia suggested that these were collagen fibers. The ridges on the backs and tails of some modern aquatic lizards consist of such formations. The dispute between supporters of these theories was settled only in 2017. A team of researchers used modern technology to once again study the fossils. They concluded that these prints were made by primitive filamentous feathers. Of course, these feathers were very different from the plumage of modern birds. The closest thing to them in structure is the down that covers the chicks. The feathers that cover the kiwi bird also have a similar structure. It is impossible to use such feathers for flight. The plumage of the Sinosauropteryx may have also served to retain heat or to attract the opposite sex. Also, feathers could have been a means for camouflage. Also in 2017, scientists managed to restore the color of feather cover on this dinosaur. It turned out that it was painted very unevenly. The back was dark, and the lower part of the body was light. The tail was painted in vertical alternating stripes of dark and light shades. And on the face, there was a kind of mask, similar to the coloring of a raccoon's face. Within a couple of years after the discovery of the Sinosauropteryx, several feathered dinosaurs were discovered in China. Among them were species such as the Microraptor, Baeyaposaurus, and Caudioteryx. They were all small in size, mostly their weight did not exceed several kilograms. Except that the Baeyaposaurus could grow up to 2 meters and weigh up to 40 kilograms. This lizard from the Baipao province belongs to the Therizinosa family. The first fossil finds of this dinosaur were made in 1996. This small theropod lived on Earth during the Cretaceous period, approximately 125 million years ago. Its entire body was covered with the same thin, fluffy feather fibers as of those on the Sinosauropteryx, but they were longer and were directed along the forelimbs. But it differed from the other members of its family with its large skull. At the end of its mouth was a toothless beak. The teeth were located in the back of the mouth and in the cheek area. Caudioteryx is a small insectivorous theropod. It lived in China at the same time as the previous described species. It was opened in 1997. The body length of this dinosaur did not exceed 1 meter and weighed just over 2 kilograms. An interesting feature of the feather covering this species is the presence of several types of feathers. His legs were covered with a thread-like down, which most likely served to keep him warm. And on the short tail, there were real contour feathers. Thanks to them, the dinosaur got its name. It means tail with feathers. These feathers were not symmetrical in structure, therefore there was no suitable way for flight. But the Microraptor, it couldn't fully fly, but it could glide from tree to tree. To do this, he grew feathers not only in his front legs, but also on his hind legs. This is one of the smallest dinosaurs. Its length, including its tail, could barely exceed 1 meter, and it weighed no more than 1 kilogram. While we're talking about small dinosaurs, the presence of feathers was perceived by scientists relatively calmly. But when a feathered tyrannosaurid, Eutyrannus, was discovered in China in 2012, scientists were very puzzled. According to various estimates, this large theropod could grow up to 7.5 to 9 meters in length. He was 3 meters tall and weighed no more than 1 ton. Threaded feathers up to 20 centimeters long covered the neck, back, legs, and tail of the dinosaur. Apparently, it was cold enough in China 125 million years ago that even the largest dinosaurs had to insulate themselves like that. But evidence of the presence of feathers in Tyrannosaurus rex and its other relatives has not yet been found. Such large animals generate enough heat to do without additional protection from the cold. Examples of this are the modern elephants and rhinoceroses. But despite the lack of scientific substantiation, Tyrannosaurus partially covered with fluff appeared in some documentaries. The TV series Prehistoric Planet. Interestingly, traces of plumage have been found in some species of pterosaurs. They separated from the dinosaur lineage much earlier than the end of the Cretaceous period. From this, scientists concluded that feathers were present in their common ancestors. This means that dinosaurs may have originally had feathers. It's just that some of them got rid of the feathers in the process of evolution. About a year ago, the Age of Dinosaurs channel already aired a video about the most unusual animals on our planet. In it, we talked about several extinct, more than 10 living bizarre creatures. This list then included the goblin shark, the little arm, the living stone, the panda ant, the star-nosed fish, the blobfish, and others. But evolution on our planet sometimes followed a very unusual path. And in the entire history of the development of life on Earth, there was much more unusual creatures that can be told even in a dozen videos. Today, we decided to introduce to you to several more animals living with us at the same time. By subscribing to our channel, you can be the first to know when new videos are released. Also, our viewers can express their opinions about them using likes and comments. Your activity will allow the channel creators to take into account your wishes and comments, promoting the channel and the algorithm to help more people see it. Pangolin. Despite their rather primitive structure, pangolins are one of the most ancient and unusual mammals. We can safely devote a separate issue to their evolution. The ancestors of modern pangolins appeared around 64 million years ago. That is, almost immediately after the extinction of the dinosaurs. The first of them lived in Europe. Due to the subsequent cooling of the climate, only the descendants of those who moved to Southeast Asia and Africa have survived to this day. Now on Earth, there are 8 species of these unusual animals. 7 of them are nocturnal. Their scale armor is unlike that of any other creature. They feed on ants and termites. Its long tongue is attached to muscles that attach to the lower process of the sternum. This process extends to the posterior wall of their abdominal cavity. In case of danger, pangolins curl into a ball, which only the largest predators can unroll. It's thanks to this property that this amazing beast got its name. Naked mole rat. These unusual rodents live in East Africa. Even though naked mole rats are mammals, their colonies follow the same principles as bees and termites. Most of the rank and file members of the colony belong to the worker or soldier castes. One female queen and several males close to her are responsible for the reproduction of offspring. A colony usually includes around 300 individuals. During the year, the queen can give birth to 20 cubs up to 6 times. They live in deep tunnels underground. The total area of these tunnels is approximately equal to a football field. It's also known that diggers do not drink water at all. They get enough moisture from the tubers that they feed on. Recent studies have shown that this unusual creature can help people overcome old age. It turned out that they lack the genes responsible for the decrepitude of the body in old age. Until death, diggers remain young. The most famous male naked mole rat was found in 1974 and lived for 28 years in captivity. He was about 1 year old at the time of his capture. It's believed that the reason for the longevity of the naked mole rats is almost complete absence of natural enemies. They, unlike other rodents, do not need to quickly and in large numbers replenish the population. During their evolution, mole rats simply abandoned aging genes that had become unnecessary. After all, Those mammals that had no one to fear lived longer than others. The current record holder is the bowhead whale that can live up to 200 years. Madagascar suckerfoots. This species of bat lives only in Madagascar. Scientists know of only 2 species of suckers, and both of them are currently almost unstudied. Their body length is only 5 to 6 centimeters, and their wingspan is 25 centimeters. The structure of their paws is unusual. These bats have small suckers on their toes. With their help, they cling to tree trunks, branches, and leaves of bushes. Suckerfoots feed mainly on fruits and insects. They live in small groups and are nocturnal. Coconut crab. Despite its name, the coconut crab is a type of hermit crab. At the same time, it is the largest terrestrial arthropod. The length of its body can reach 78 centimeters, and the span of its claws is 1 meter. This giant weighs up to 4 kilograms. This crab can only swim at the larval stage. Juveniles have 2 breathing apparatuses, but over time, the one that is designed for underwater life atrophies. The second name of this creature is the coconut thief. Adult crabs are able to climb palm tree trunks to a height of 6 meters and drop coconuts from there. The strength of its claws allow it to crack the hard shell and get to the coconut flesh. Moreover, according to some estimates, with these claws, he can lift up to 30 kilograms. The first Europeans who saw this creature on the Pacific Islands believed that the crabs could attack domestic animals. But now it's known that the coconut thief uses his strength only to drag cargo, and it feeds mainly on carrion and fruits. Sea cucumber. Sea cucumbers are a type of marine echinoderm, distributed almost throughout the globe. They have existed on our planet since the Silurian period. That is, more than 400 million years ago. The authorship of its name of these unusual creatures is attributed to the ancient Roman philosopher Pliny. It is also known that Aristotle in his time described several species of sea cucumbers. Now science knows more than 1,000 species of these creatures. They have a length of a few millimeters to 2 meters. Externally, sea cucumbers resemble earthworms or caterpillars. They crawl along the seabed, collecting everything that their mouth tentacles can reach. Recent studies have shown that they can suck in plankton and other small animals from the back of their body. But the most amazing feature of the sea cucumber is its defense mechanism. In case of danger, the animal shoots part of its internal organs out. While the attacker eats them, the front part of the mollusk flees. Sea cucumber has a very fast regeneration. He is able to completely restore himself if only half of his body is preserved. Octopus Dumbo. This species of octopus received its name for the external resemblance of its fins to elephant ears. They were discovered in 1999, and the first video of the octopus Dumbo appeared only in 2009. They live on the ocean floor at a depth to 1 to 5,000 meters. Individual specimens were found at depths of up to 7 kilometers. Thus, Dumbo became the deepest sea of all known octopuses. At the moment, 37 species of these animals are known. Their sizes do not exceed 20 centimeters. Unlike other octopuses, they swallow their prey whole. Their diet mainly consists of small crustaceans, worms, and bivalves. Giant salamanders. China and Japan are home to 2 species of giant amphibians more than 140 million years old. The Chinese giant salamander is the largest amphibian on Earth. It can grow to 180 centimeters. Japanese salamanders can reach 1.5 meters and weigh up to 23 kilograms. Many scientists believe that both these creatures belong to the same species. They can even interbreed with each other. They live in mountains, rivers, and streams.
Both of them grow throughout their lives, but specimens bred in captivity reach maximum sizes. In the wild, on average, they do not exceed 50 to 70 centimeters. Axolotl. The unusual thing about axolotls is that these amphibians are also the larvae of Mexican or tiger ambystoma. But the transition to adulthood is completely optional for this unusual larva. Even in this state, axolotls can reproduce. It is believed that the transformation from larvae to adult amphibian is influenced by changes in the environment, in particular an increase in water temperature. They grow up to 45 centimeters, but most often their length does not exceed 25 to 30 centimeters. Due to the interesting appearance, axolotls are often kept in home aquariums. In nature, they are found in only 2 high mountain lakes in Mexico. Now, scientists are specially crossing axolotls with different colors. They can even manage to get their patterns on their skin that shimmer and glow in the dark. Another feature of axolotls is their unique ability to regenerate. He can grow new limbs to replace the lost ones. For the axolotl, restoring a damaged brain or spine is not a problem. Salpa. Studying the appearance and reproductive characteristics of the salp, it is difficult to imagine that this creature is the result of earthly evolution. But in fact, these space aliens are tunicates. This is a type of chordate. In fact, in an evolutionary sense, they are closer to us than, for example, octopuses. The salpa is a transparent creature, ranging in length from a few millimeters to 30 centimeters. They drift freely in the ocean, filtering a suspension of various organic remains and microscopic animals. The method and reproduction of these strange animals cannot cause any pleasant feelings. The embryos of future salps develop inside their mother's body. Then, they can bud from it, but not outward, but inward. The body of an adult salp does not provide any means for the young to exit. Therefore, when they reach a certain age, they actually tear their mother apart. Ligers and tigers. Surprisingly, 2 large representatives of the cat family have joint offspring. Of course, lions and tigers currently have no opportunity to meet in nature due to their different habitats, but in captivity, experiments on their crossing gives very interesting results. Kittens of such marriages have characteristics of both species. At the same time, ligers, that is, those whose father is a lion and whose mother is a tigress, are much larger than both of them. Outwardly, they strongly resemble their distant ancestors, cave lions. They have no mane at all, and the stripes on the sides and back are not so pronounced.
Having become the ruler of the planet, man conquered not only the whole Earth, but also the sky. Now, his man-made machines plow the airspace over all continents. But it happened by historical standards quite recently. Prior to this, the sky belonged to creatures that can fly on their own without man-made mechanical devices. And the birds were far from the first animals that decided to explore the sky. Long before they appeared on our planet, there lived creatures that made others look up in fear. Today, we decided to talk about the most dangerous flying creatures that have not survived to this day. If you want to be the first to know about the releases of new videos on the Age of Dinosaurs channel, then subscribe to it right now. After that, you'll be able to leave your comments under our videos. We also ask our viewers to actively express their opinion with the help of likes. The first large animals known to science to take to the skies are pterosaurs. For 150 million years, dozens, maybe hundreds of species of these flying lizards were the masters of the sky. Among them were animals quite comparable in size to modern birds, and there were those next to which some aircraft models would look like toys. Their evolution sometimes acquired very interesting and even bizarre forms. we want to talk about the most popular and at the same time unknown to the general public features of these air predators. Pterodactylus. For many, this name is associated with all pterosaurs in general. Most likely this happened due to the fact that the pterodactyl was first identified as a flying lizard and given its own name. For many years in popular culture, the concept of pterodactyl became tantamount to the definition of pterosaur. These were small reptiles, no more than 1 meter in size. Most likely they hunted fish and small land animals. These creatures lived about 145 to 152 million years ago. Quetzalcoatl. Without a doubt, this giant is the largest flying creature in the entire history of our planet. He got his name in honor of one of the gods of the Aztec pantheon and can rightly be considered the master of the air element of the dinosaur era. They lived towards the end of the dinosaur era and fed mainly on carrion and small animals. It's believed that with the wingspan of about 12 meters, Quetzalcoatl was able to cover a distance of half the globe in one flight. Germanodactylus. It is known for certain that many pterosaurs had crests of bone and soft tissue on their heads. But the first creature in which this accessory was discovered was precisely the Germanodactyl. These small flying lizards lived about 150 million years ago. Their wingspans rarely exceeded 1 meter, and the size of their skull was about 13 centimeters. Rhamphorhynchus. Rhamphorhynchus are one of the smallest members of the pterosaur family. On average, the length of their body along with the tail was about 40 centimeters, and it is the tail that is their main distinguishing feature. It was very long compared to the body of the pterosaur, and at its end was a diamond-shaped tassel. Most likely, the way of life of Rhamphorhynchus did not differ from the behavior of modern seabirds. They lived on the shores of the seas and oceans and hunted small fish, diving into the water after them. The shape of their teeth speaks of the way of eating. The teeth were needle-shaped and were slightly inclined forward. Ctenacasma. Several species of these interesting pterosaurs are known, living approximately 140 to 150 million years ago. The wingspan of the smallest of them was about 25 centimeters. They also differed in the way that they fed. The beak was studded and thin with sharp teeth, resembling a brush. Scientists suggest that the lizard filtered water with this tool and ate crustaceans and small invertebrates that stuck in it. Thalassodromeus. The main external difference of this large pterosaur was its huge crest. It occupied almost the entire surface of the skull. The total length of the Thalassodromeus was about 1.5 meters, and the wingspan was about 45 meters. These pterosaurs lived about 110 million years ago. Judging by the proportions of their body, the structure of the limbs, and the presence of powerful jaws, this lizard hunted ground prey. Nyctosaurus. Another pterosaur with a bizarre crest on its head was the nyctosaurs. They lived on Earth approximately 65 to 90 million years ago. Their crest was shaped like deer antlers and could reach 55 centimeters in length. With a body length of the pterosaur itself of 30 to 40 centimeters, it looked very unusual. The true wingspan of these creatures reached about 2 meters. Another interesting difference between nyctosaurs was the absence of fingers on the upper limbs. Scientists believe that this is greatly hampering the process of movement on land. Therefore, nyctosaurs spent almost their entire lives in flight. Pteranodon. It was the representatives of this family that became the heroes of many Hollywood blockbusters and children's cartoons about dinosaurs. More remains of pteranodons have been found than all other flying lizards combined. This is why scientists have enough information to describe the appearance and habits of these pterosaurs.
They were fairly large animals. The wingspan of adult males could exceed 5.5 meters, while for females it was just under 4 meters. The beak of the pteranodon was distinguished by its great length and the complete absence of teeth. It is believed that the basis of their diet was fish and small crustaceans, which they caught from the water right in flight. After the end of the dinosaur eras, it was birds that occupied many of the vacant life niches. Moreover, this applied not only to airspace. One of the largest land predators of that time were birds of prey, Ferrericos. But for the sake of this, they forever abandoned the opportunity to fly. Therefore, further we will not be talking about them, but about those birds that replaced pterosaurs in their usual element. Here, too, there were gigantic forms. Many of the described species could well prey on the ancestors of modern man, and one of them himself became his prey. Argentavis. For a long time, Argentavis was considered the largest bird that ever lived. Its wingspan could reach 6 meters. As its name implies, this giant bird lived on the territory of modern Argentina. It is believed that Argentavis ate mainly carrion. He could watch other predators and take their prey from them, diving at it from great heights. Pelagornis sanders. In 1983, the remains of a truly giant bird were discovered in the United States. She received the name Pelagornis sanders. The wingspan of this seabird was about 7 meters. The so-called pseudo-teeth or tooth spikes were found in the beak of the Pelagornis. With these sharp protrusions, the bird pierced the shells of mollusks. Also, her diet included squid and various types of fish. Pelagornis chilensis. Another representative of the Pelagornis family lived in the Atacama Desert in Chile. So far, only one specimen of the remains of this bird, which became extinct about 5 million years ago, has been discovered. Its wingspan was 5 meters. In the beak, 20 sharp pseudo-teeth were found, adapted for eating fish and squid. Teratornis. The remains of this large bird of prey, with a height of more than 70 centimeters and a wingspan of up to 3.5 meters, are found over a vast area in many U.S. states. They died out about 10,000 years ago. Their main prey were small animals about the size of a modern rabbit. The bird held its prey with powerful claws and tore it apart with its sharp beak, approximately the same way modern birds eat their prey. Hast's eagle. This specimen of eagles is considered the largest of all members of the family. He lived only on one of the New Zealand islands, and people could observe these birds living 600 to 700 years ago. Its main prey were large flightless birds that also lived in this region. The eagle would swoop down on its prey from a great height at a speed of about 80 kilometers per hour. Such an attack can be compared to a large stone falling on the head from a height of about 25 meters. The predator grabbed the prey with one paw, and the second dealt a fatal blow to the neck or head. When it comes to the most dangerous dinosaurs, formidable theropods like a Tyrannosaurus rex or an Allosaurus immediately appear to everyone. But as now, the arm race between carnivores and herbivores moved in two directions. Predators acquired large teeth and claws for attack, and herbivorous lizards were overgrown with impenetrable armor and developed the means of protection against the attack of toothy enemies. At the same time, some of them became no less dangerous opponents, and protecting their lives could inflict serious damage. Subscribe to the channel of the Dinosaur Era, and you'll be the first to know of new releases about the life of these prehistoric pangolins and other animal species. By leaving comments under our videos and liking them, you'll help promote the channel and tell other science lovers all about it.
Despite their seemingly harmlessness, many herbivores have a difficult character. And, in combination with a large mass, the presence of horns or fangs, such an animal can create serious problems for predators that attack it. It is not for nothing that among some African tribes, the most dangerous animal in the savanna is considered not a lion or a crocodile, but the buffalo. Also, few predators risk contact with adult elephants, rhinos, and hippos. Similarly, in the time of the dinosaurs, some large herbivores could fight back any bloodthirsty monster. Stegosaurus. Dinosaurs from this family are among the first fossil dinosaurs of the Jurassic period known to science. They lived throughout Eurasia as well as North America. It was the North American species of Stegosaurus that was discovered in 1877 by paleontologist Charles Marshall in Colorado. Subsequently, this dinosaur became a symbol of the state. But the first researchers of the found remains thought they had stumbled upon the skeleton of an extinct giant tortoise. The famous backplates of the Stegosaurus had been mistaken for parts of the carapace. Within 10 years, the remains of several more animals were found in this area. Marshall's final idea of the appearance of this species was formed after finding an almost complete skeleton in 1887, but the scientist used to reconstruct the bones of several individuals found together. Therefore, the Stegosaurus of the late 19th century had only one row of plates along the spine and 4 pairs of vertically located spines at the end of the tail. Now Stegosaurus are depicted with 2 rows of dorsal plates arranged in a checker row pattern. And they only have 2 pairs of tail spines. It was they who served to protect against the attack of predators. The found Allosaurus vertebrae with a hole from such a spike suggests that the Stegosaurus was not a defenseless victim and could stand up for itself. With a length of up to 9 meters and a height of up to 4 meters and a mass of up to 4 tons, a blow from a spiked tail could cause very serious injuries. Ankylosaurus. Ankylosaurus is a distant relative of Stegosaurus and belongs to the so-called armored dinosaurs. It is the largest of them. According to various estimates, its length was up to 7 or 9 meters, and its weight was up to 6 tons. This dinosaur lived in America and Canada about 66 to 68 million years ago. The famous explorer Barnum Brown was the discoverer of this type of dinosaur. He discovered the first bones of the Ankylosaurus in 1990 during excavations of the remains of a Tyrannosaurus rex. But he was able to identify this species as previously unexplored only in 1906 when he found the upper jaw, several teeth, and part of the shoulder girdle. Brown described this find in 1908. Then he gave the name to this species. You can translate it as shouldered lizard, and in 1910, the same scientist was able to discover the only surviving tail of an Ankylosaurus. From head to tail, this dinosaur was encased in heavy bone armor. Some Ankylosaurus species even had armor on their chest and abdomen. A considerable danger to other animals was the moving tail of the lizard with a leathery mace at the end. Scientists believe that a pair of muscles located at its base was responsible for the movement of the tail. These muscles allowed the dinosaur to make wide swings with its terrible weapon. Scientists have no doubt that the Ankylosaurus used it precisely to protect itself from predators. Not every hunter took the risk of attacking large prey clad in strong armor, which could break legs or ribs with the help of tail blows. Ceratopsians. Ceratopsians, or horned lizards, are one of the most recognizable varieties of herbivorous dinosaurs. The most popular of these is the one that lived in the mid-Cretaceous period in North America. This dinosaur appeared in many cartoons and computer games dedicated to the era of dinosaurs. In them, this lizard with 3 horns often appears as a dangerous and quick-tempered hero, capable of defending himself, even from such a danger as the T-Rex. This is partly true. After all, scientists often find fossilized bones of Triceratops with traces of claws and teeth of predatory theropods. In the 70s of the 19th century, researchers regularly came across the bones and horns of Triceratops, but they were attributed to the extinct species of bison or other ungulates. In 1888, an almost completely preserved skull was found in Wyoming, which Charles Marsh described as a new species. He gave it a name of the three-horned head. One small horn was located on the nose, and two longer ones above the eyes. The lizard itself had a length of up to 9 meters and a height of up to 3 meters. The mass of the body is estimated by scientists to be 6 to 12 tons. After the discovery of skulls of individuals of different ages, it turned out that the horns of Triceratops changed their orientation over time. In younger dinosaurs, they went bent back, while in adults, they were directed forward. Perhaps the horns of the Triceratops served not only as a weapon, they could be used in ritual fights or to attract the opposite sex. The length of the paired horns of Triceratops could exceed 1 meter. There is also a serious debate among scientists about how fast these animals could develop. The structure of the shoulder blades and humerus bones of the Triceratops resembles those of horses and rhinos. Also, some species believe that his legs were located under the body of the dinosaur, but not on the sides like other reptiles. With such a body structure, the animal could develop great speed. A blow from sharp horns from a running start could be fatal for any predator of the dinosaur era. Pachycephalosaurs. In many Hollywood films, dinosaurs from the Pachycephalosaurid family are shown as dangerous animals. Such an opinion about them has developed because of the bone outgrowth on its head, surrounded by small horns. Disputes about its purpose are still being conducted by scientists. Many believe that such a helmet served to protect the brain, but it could also serve well as a shock weapon. Fragments of the skulls of these dinosaurs discovered in the second half of the 19th century were taken by scientists for the remains of armored reptiles or armadillos. The well-preserved skull of Pachycephalosaurus fell into the hands of researchers only in 1943. Then, paleontologists Barnum Brown and Eric Marin gave him a name that means fat-headed lizard. And the most complete skeleton of this dinosaur was found in 1994. It contained more than half of all bones of the animal. Now the maximum growth of this dinosaur is estimated to be 4.5 meters, and the mass is about 450 kilograms. Until 2007, dinosaurs such as Tricorex and Stygimoloch were considered related to Pachycephalosaurus. Now, most scientists are inclined to believe that they are Pachycephalosauruses in earlier stages of development. Interestingly, the lizard that walked on 2 legs is not a relative of ornithopods. In its structure, it turned out to be closer to ceratopsians. Giant sauropods. The main weapon of Argentinosaurs, Diplodocus, and other long-necked giants capable of protecting them from the attack of any predators is their size. Many of them were several times larger than the most dangerous predators. For example, the growth of Argentinosaurs could be up to 36 meters and weigh up to 80 tons. Diplodocus, 30 meters and 21 tons. Brontosaurs, 22 meters and 15 tons respectively. Even just moving through the forest, they could accidentally crush smaller animals. Most likely, only young or sick individuals would become victims of predators. We are grateful to the viewers who watched to the end of this video. If you want to learn more about the most dangerous creatures of the dinosaur era, we recommend you pay attention to the other videos posted on our channel.